How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to another Wizard101 Rant Tavern video, the video where I get to discuss about various Wizard101 topics, and we get to discuss this in the comment section. So today I want to talk about endgame content. Now, for context, what exactly is endgame content? Endgame content is essentially where you run out of everything. So like you have no quest that you need to do specifically, and you pretty much get all the farming gear that you need. And now you're at a point where you're trying to find ways to pass time for the game until the next update comes, and now you're at the verge of doing this stuff all over again. So what's considered endgame content will be different from everyone. However, I know that the reason why I'm bringing this up is because of what happened recently on Twitter with a little bit of discourse, but it really wasn't much of a discourse. It was just a difference in opinion about what will be considered as endgame content. Even though it wasn't 100% about that discussion, it definitely was somewhat brought up, and someone did mention how PvP was considered the true endgame content, as if it was the only endgame content. The fact of the matter is, this just isn't true, and the forms that I'm going to talk about right now are what will be considered endgame content. So collecting is considered endgame content. So questing, badge collecting, monstrology, fishing, that's endgame content. House decorating, one of the most popular forms of endgame content, is endgame content. PvP, one of the other most popular forms, if not the most popular form of endgame content, is endgame content. Events like Deckathalon or Beastmoon are forms of endgame content, and all this that I've just mentioned are all forms of endgame content. Because of how vague the term endgame content really is, anything is endgame content. But to the majority of us, the idea of endgame content is when you just run out of stuff to do and you're just trying to find something that can let you pass the time until the next update arrives. So with that being said, let's talk about the forms of endgame content and how exactly can we improve every form of endgame content. So for starters, let's start an easy one, and this will be the collectors. So collectors are essentially probably may not be the most popular form of endgame content, but it definitely is considered to be endgame content. One of the forms will be badge collecting. Now, for badge collecting, part of the way you get badges is by doing essentially all the quests that is available at the time. Other forms are by defeating a boss a certain amount of times or defeating enemies a certain amount of times. Those are all forms of collecting badges. So one of the features that you could definitely implement that will allow for a little bit easier time for badge collectors will probably be a better organization of the quest. So the way I see it is you could probably have it to where the quest could be categorized by world. So maybe you have some toggles up here, you could toggle each and every one of them, and then you'll be able to see what quests do you have that are in your book that will be in a specific world. Or you can have it categorized by category. So is it a training point quest? Is it just a side quest? Is it the main quest? Is a school quest? So we're talking about getting new spells or either getting pets. You know, what exactly the type of form of quest it is could also be very helpful in order to organize the different various amounts of quest. The other form of endgame content that could be improved will probably be Monstrology. Monstrology is a really interesting one because the idea of Monstrology is you are essentially collecting, you know, specific enemies like Pokemon, and you're trying to collect every single one, either for house decorating or just because you like to be a collector. One of the issues that are in Monstrology that I've never really personally experienced because I've never really done Monstrology, but I probably will sometime, especially because we reach 1,000 subscribers, and yeah, there's reasons. One of the issues with Monstrology, according to my friends who have done it, is how when you do a dungeon, so let's say for example Master, apparently the idea is that everyone takes turns in order to get animus for that specific, you know, form. And the person who gets the animus will be the person who kills the enemy, or at least gets a majority of it. I believe with animus, if you were to hit the enemy, you get a certain amount, but you don't get the full amount when someone else defeats it. You only get just a certain amount, but the person who kills gets the full amount. So, or probably just all of it. I'm not 100% sure on that one because I've never really done Monstrology. But the idea is not everyone gets the same amount, and that's the issue. So a way you could probably improve this and probably promote more people to do Monstrology farming is have it so where you can utilize the group feature. If everyone is in the group and within that group someone was able to kill a certain boss in a certain dungeon, or just boss in general that you were just in a team for, then all of you can get the full amount of animus. So let's say the maximum you can get in this boss is like 30 animus. If no matter who kills, if they were able to kill after casting an animus spell, so basically animus spells being enchants that are for Monstrology, then every single person will get that 30 animus, and that way it promotes more people to do animus farming in groups, which makes things a lot easier for house decorators and also collectors alike, because there's definitely a lot of them out there that will probably be more than willing to help you in order to do it if somehow KingsIsle was to manage to improve these features. So I had to get back on my Myth Wizard to showcase you about fishing. I also wanted to correct myself because in Monstrology, I believe I mentioned about how this should have showed, like, you know, how many you've gotten, you know, per world. It turns out that it does, but you actually just have to start Monstrology in order for it to show you. So that's really cool, and definitely something that is super interesting that could be done with Monstrology. I think Monstrology is super cool. I just wish that it did a little bit more overall. However, I do want to mention that for fishing, one of the things you could do is the same thing that has been done with pet tomes and also Monstrology tomes, is have them categorized by world. That way it's a little bit easier to organize, and then it could show you that, okay, you've got this many different types of fish out of this full total amount of fish that could be obtained in the specific world, making it easier for collectors to pretty much be able to get everything. And that's pretty much it, because honestly I can't really think of spells that could probably improve fishing overall. Like, I can't really think of one. I feel like with every update to fishing there's been more spells, and with the more spells it's made fishing a lot more easier. If there is something you could think of for spells that could make fishing a lot more easier, let me know, because I can't really think of anything. But one of the things I could say that can improve fishing is probably a little bit more organization. Okay, now that I've talked pretty extensively about collectors, what can be done to improve housing? Well, housing for the most part has been vastly improved thanks to advanced placement, and even before that people were able to find creative ways to make things. Advanced placement just made it a lot easier for the house decorators to be a lot more creative of what they have, and it's amazing. House decorators, let me know if there's anything you will want, because for me personally, I feel like the only thing that a house decorator needs more than anything is an housing vault. We have a gear vault to organize gear. We have a seed vault to organize seeds. And the only thing that's kind of missing, other than, you know, the treasure card vault that we talked earlier that never really happened, link in description, or I will have an icon so I can show you that video. Check it out. The other thing that's really needed is a housing vault, because the thing is, a lot of packs recently have been giving house exclusive or pack exclusive items that are housing items that are super cool. You can use it for housing. The only problem is, where do you put it? And you could say, oh, you know, just buy more houses, you know, put all the junk in other houses. Okay, that's fine. But then there's an organization problem. You won't be able to organize pretty well. Even with a backpack butler, it'll just take forever for you to remember all these things, and it'll just be better if there was a simpler way of doing it. That simpler way of doing it is a housing vault. That way you'll be able to store your housing items in one specific area, and you'll know exactly where that one specific item will be, especially because the backpack butler will let you know that, hey, it's in this little thing and this little place. You can come and check it out and see what you have. And that way it makes it easier for you to designate specific houses that are extras for you that will be mainly used so you can get a specific housing item that you need to decorate your home. So really that's the only thing I could think about for housing. So with Beastmoon and Deckathalon, there are a few things that I think can be changed for both game modes. For Beastmoon, for starters, I feel like most of the changes can be made in the PvE version of it, which is Monster Mayhem. What exactly could be done to improve Monster Mayhem, you might ask? Just give an end game reward for the players, no matter win or lose. The way that Mayhem works is that you get a reward for getting past the rounds. So you finish round 1, you get a reward. Finish round 2, get a reward. Finish round 3, you get the end reward. But I feel like the way it should be done is if you don't pass round 1, then you still get a reward. It just won't be the best. Maybe just a little bit of Lunari and a reagent. And let's say you pass round 1. Then now you can get Lunari reagents and maybe like idle reagents too. And then if you pass round 2, for example, you could get a little bit more Lunari. You can now talk about getting spell elements as well. That would be awesome. And if you were to get past the whole thing, then I feel like this is a perfect time to reward players with moon dust that will allow you to craft the specific golden idols that allows you to unlock forms permanently. And we can even talk about a chance to get a specific golden idol. That way it incentivizes players to try to do their best in Monster Mayhem so that more people are able to unlock Beastmoon forms for free. Which I feel like is not a crazy thing. I feel like this is just something that should have been done from the get-go for Monster Mayhem. Now in the PvP mode, the only thing I could really say that could be improved in the PvP mode is, me personally, I feel like there should definitely be more forms that give stun blocks. One of my biggest issues in Beastmoon, the PvP mode, is how insane stun is. And many people point out, oh, well, just use the Colossus. And I'm like, yeah, sure. But the issue is that it's really just the Colossus and the Crackle Mummy that give stun blocks. Me personally, if you ask me, if there's a defensive form, then if there's no other gimmick, then there should be a potential to give stun blocks. For example, the Myth Minotaur. I feel like the Myth Minotaur should be able to give stun blocks. At least one. Like, just give stun blocks with its 2-pip shield. And give the minion the potential to give stun blocks with its 4-pip shield. You know, I just feel like it will make sense for more defensive forms to have stun blocks, so that there's more options for protecting players against stun chains in Beastmoon. But other than that, Beastmoon itself is fine. Deckathalon, on the other hand, I feel like the only thing that can be changed, in my opinion, is instead of just giving out TC, the craft that is mostly attacks that were used to be meant for PvP but now banned from PvP and not necessarily 100% useful in Deckathalon itself, I feel like there should be more opportunity to craft minions. Because minions are what allowed Deckathalon to be a lot easier in the long run. So being able to craft minions could, and we're talking about decently powerful minions too, could make a really big difference in being able to defeat Deckathalon instead of having to spend money on specific packs that will give you specific minions, or just grind out a lot of time in getting Brandon TC. Because I don't like the idea that the game is pretty high reliant on Brandon TC at the very end because of how insanely powerful the enemies get. It's still a really fun event, but it would be nice if we would be able to craft our own minions in Deckathalon so it could be a little bit easier to do. And the other thing I will say that could be improved in Deckathalon is just the rewards being a little bit better, making the grind a little bit less of a hassle for getting the specific decks, especially because now they're not necessarily useful for PvP, since really most of the TC that's useful for PvP is banned. And that's pretty much it. Other than that, it's really just, I kind of just wish we'll be able to craft specific TC that are minion based that will allow us to do better in Deckathalon, and also just better rewards. You know, maybe a little bit of a higher chance of getting spell elements. That will be the bare minimum, will be nice. Or more quantities and reagents will be good too. And finally, we are at the verge of talking about PvP. So the reason why I left this for last is because there has been some changes that are made, and not everyone will agree as to if it's really good or really bad, what the changes are, the way they are. Me personally, PvP is a work in progress, and it will always be a work in progress for some time. So a lot of people have pointed out that, oh, okay, why not just wait for a really huge update for PvP to come in? That's just a really bad idea to begin with. The reason why is because then afterwards you'll have so much to fix, because not everyone's gonna like all the massive amounts of changes. It basically completely changes the game, and then everyone just has to, you know, take so much of their time trying to adapt to a meta that will eventually just be removed anyway, or change automatically, just because the changes just weren't good overall for PvP, because it was just too much to take in. I feel like the way King's has been doing it is fine. There definitely should still be changes being made, and I could definitely see as to why people have been really irritated about PvP in terms of why, you know, it's just been at the state it's always been, where no one can really just appreciate how somewhat in the right direction the game has been going in the PvP sense. And the reason why is because, you know, the PvP community has been ignored by everyone within Wizard101 for such a long time. So the moment that we are finally given the opportunity to voice our opinions, it's very passionate, and I definitely do appreciate that it's a very passionate community. The PvP community is super passionate. At the same time, I do think that sometimes the PvP players can chill a little bit in terms of, you know, how they discuss things with the developers and all that, because at the same time, you know, keep in mind it's a work in progress. Keep in mind the game is not that big, you know, the company is not that big to begin with. You know, we're not talking about like miHoYo and Genshin Impact where you can have an update almost every month. We're talking about a team where some of the biggest updates come every quarter, give or take, or every so couple of months. And with that, there's always going to be something that needs to be fixed. And one of the major things that luckily was fixed was the queue times, at least for what I've been seeing. I haven't really been seeing anyone talk about the queue times being horrible now. I heard that they're decent now. They're serviceable to the bare minimum, which is fine. You know, obviously there's gonna need more improvements, but within the new queue system, I feel like a healthy queue is when there's many people playing it. So the only thing I could think about as of right now that could definitely make PvP really good and could improve it a lot is make it free. Literally what you said before, make PvP free. Why is it that you haven't made PvP free yet, like you promised? Well, what about the boosters? Let's be honest here. Nobody cares about boosters. Like, yeah, we care about a leaderboards being competitive, but we can worry about that another day. Let's just focus on what the problem is at hand. The major issue is that no one could get a match. So it will only make sense to make it free. You don't want to go all the way free? Fine. Make it to where players can start off at least 3 ranked matches a day for free. And once those 3 ranked matches are done, they can wait till next day to make another 3 ranked matches for free. And depending on how popular that is, you can eventually gradually go towards making PvP fully free like you promised. Because a lot of the things with the queue can be improved and could be good on paper if there's people playing. There's not going to be people playing if you have to stamp a price tag on it just to do PvP or competitive PvP. The reason why Beastmoon is so popular, and also Deckathalon arguably, is because it's free. If you were to make PvP free, it will be just as competitive, if not better, than Beastmoon and Deckathalon. Because now you're giving more opportunity for people to try out competitive player versus player. And the whole idea of this is to make the queue as healthy as possible. How do you make the queue as healthy as possible? Allow people to just come right in. How is it that Beastmoon is so popular? How is it that the Beastmoon queue is so like vibrant? It's just healthy. It's because it's free, and many people can go in the queue right away, almost no strings attached. In PvP, the string attached is the price tag. So one of the major things you can do is super simple, super easy. Make it free. If you make PvP free, then a lot of issues with the queue times can be improved significantly. Many people that want to try out PvP will try out PvP. And maybe they like it, maybe they don't. But the fact that it's free, at least they have the opportunity. That's essentially it for my Rant Tavern. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you thought in the comments. As always, make sure to like and subscribe, and always remember to stay frenzy. Peace.